Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shravanam Diaries Podcast.
Reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, the book by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, Text 15. Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasa shantim nirvana paramam matsamstham adhigachati. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. Purport. The ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi, according to Bhagavad Gita. Nor does cessation of material existence entails one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. Rather, the cessation of material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord. The abode of the Lord is also clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita as that place where there is no need of sun, moon, or electricity. All the planets in the spiritual kingdom are self-illuminated like the sun in the material sky. The kingdom of God is everywhere, but the spiritual sky and the planets thereof are called Paramdham, or superior abodes. A consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna, as is clearly stated herein by the Lord himself, Matchitta, Matparah, Matsthanam, can attain real peace, and can ultimately reach his supreme abode, Krishna Loka, known as Goloka Vrindavan. In the Brahma Samhita 5.37 it is clearly stated, Galoka eva nivasyatya kilatma bhuta. The Lord, although residing always in his abode, called Galoka, is the all-pervading Brahman and the localized Paramatma, as well as by dint of his superior spiritual energy. So he is the Brahman and he is the localized Paramatma as well. By dint of his superior spiritual energies, no one can reach the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha, or enter into the Lord's eternal abode, Galoka Vrindavan, without the proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion, Vishnu. Therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi, because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayor. In the Vedas also, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8, we learn Tam eva viditvati mrityumeti. Quote, one can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Unquote. In other words, perfection of the yoga system is the attainment of freedom from material existence, and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool innocent people. Yeah. Being a yogi doesn't mean that you can create gold out of nowhere, or that you can be so perfectly gymnastic that there are normal gymnastics and there are Indian gymnastics, which is yoga. It's not that. So we really need to understand that actual meaning of yoga. Okay. Actually, I really like how Srila Prabhupada, in one of the small books, he writes that if people want to improve their health, they don't have to do yoga necessarily. They can do any sort of workout, any sort of gymnastics. If they do that and they regulate their diet, they will have good health. Some people, they even think that if you're a devotee, if you want to be Krishna conscious, the only way to support your health is to do yoga, because that's devotional. It's not, actually. You're not supposed to understand yoga in that way. Text 16. Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantam anashnataha nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Purport. Regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. There is no need for man to eat animals, because there is ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food which is not first offered to Krishna, will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. Bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachantyatma karanat. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. One who eats sin and eats more than is allotted to him cannot execute perfect yoga. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. This is actually very, very popular these days. Have you seen? I've seen so many times on social media that people manufacture their own processes of fasting to lose weight, and I'm not judging, let them do whatever they want, but let's read further and I'll comment on that. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Now, first, regarding fasting, like we know in Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we have different days of fasting, like fasting till 12 for the appearances of acharyas or appearances of Lord. Then fasting, there is Ekadashi for fasting. Naturally, it's not recommended to eat more than required because you dream more than required. I'm sure, I don't know if you had experience, I definitely had experience that you eat too much, like say even for lunch. If you eat like good amount, proper amount, then you lie down to take some rest, maybe in between, but then you wake up, you're refreshed. If you eat too much, you fall into this bottomless pit of dreaming and sleeping, and you become lazy, you become sleepy, everything, because the body's energy is just directed to basically process all that food stuff. And there are different people have different metabolism. Like considering all of that, some people, they have health issues, they can't sleep 6 hours. I can speak for myself. I can't sleep 6 hours. I will not be functional, or I will have some problems. But the basic point is that don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little, don't eat too much, don't eat too little. Like even modern day, I think it's called intermittent fasting, that and it's, in one sense, it's regulation, which is good, but there are also extreme fastings, which I've seen people do. They fast complete fasting, just only on water for like 40 days or 50 days. It's self-manufactured, and they go into the zone of, they don't do anything during that time. They basically manufacture their own lifestyle, their own kind of philosophy, and okay, I mean, that's their own personal choice. But if you want to be a yogi, like when we're talking specifically bhakti yoga means that you serve the deities, you wake up for Mangalarati, you do different kinds of services in the temple or at home, and like for this kind of lifestyle, you have to find balance between everything. And if you say that, oh, I have this sort of, like I have this fasting schedule that will have to push away the sadhana bhakti, my devotional activities, that's not exactly recommended. I mean, you can't become a real yogi. You know, some devotees also, we will read that, we will mention that in the next verse. Very important. Next verse, and then we'll have that discussion. Text 17. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmashu yukta svapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Purport. Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord Krishna is offered according to the Bhagavad Gita 9.26 vegetables, flowers, fruits, grains, milk, etc. In this way, a person in Krishna consciousness becomes automatically trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption, or not in the category of goodness. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. Avyartha kalatvam. A Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, his sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this respect is Srila Rupa Goswami, who was always engaged in the service of Krishna and who could not sleep more than 2 hours a day, and sometimes not even that. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam, nor even sleep for a moment, without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beads 300,000 names. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest, and thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. Okay. Since there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. And because he is regulated in all his work, sleep, speech, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit because, to be honest, I'm very bad at proper regulation. Yeah. Now, so for my personal benefit and purification, I just want to discuss this topic. Now, first of all, learning from my past numerous mistakes. First of all, is that sometimes when I would read this, that a Krishna conscious person doesn't do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest, so he is regulated. I would take up many different kinds of services which are supposedly connected to Krishna, right? I'm doing everything for Krishna, this service and that service and this service and that service. But I would not regulate my eating, sleeping, and recreation. I would just work. And definitely I would suffer. There would be some material pains, and basically it would be, technically speaking, not following Krishna's instructions. This is Krishna's instruction, that you can't become a yogi if you eat too much, sleep too much, if you eat too less or sleep too less. And he's saying that you have to be regulated. Recreation, what is that? Recreation is needed, like in Soviet Union. I've heard it many times from my parents also, my mom basically. In Soviet Union there was this proverb saying that recreation is simply a change of work, meaning you switch work, you've been doing this type of work, then you do a different type of work. So this is recreation. You know, you're taking rest from one type of work to do another type of work. That's recreation. So this Soviet proverb really, it affected many devotees I know. That, basically recreation or taking rest is basically not on the list. But what happens when you drive yourself to the point where you're in material pain and you can't execute your yoga, bhakti yoga, properly? So, and really it makes wonders when you are conscious of your schedule, or basically it's mode of goodness, that you're not torturing yourself unnecessarily. You're regulating everything, you're taking schedule, you're planning, And even if something goes out of your plan, something is extra, then you plan later on when you have time that, okay, I've overworked here, but I have to make it up to myself, to this material body. I have that responsibility. And in that way, it literally makes life so much more easy. Easy in the sense that, like here in the purport, Prabhupada says there is no material misery for him. It's a very big statement to make. Because if you think about, like in Nectar of Devotion, it says that as soon as we take up Krishna consciousness, there is these two side effects, or two effects, or consequences, two principles that start working, that Kleshagni and Shubhada. Kleshagni means all the kleshas, all the threefold miseries, they stop. And Subhada, all auspiciousness is coming to you because of performance of devotional service. So when we don't observe that in our life, when you feel that, wow, I am actually serving Krishna 24 hours a day, from morning to evening, I'm not really happy, and my body is breaking down, and I don't even know, like, is this like happiness or what? What is this? Yes, basically, it's improper application of the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Meaning we have not yet understood philosophy properly. Because according to our philosophy, if you're a Bhakti Yogi, you are supposed to regulate your life in a way that you mitigate all material pains. Meaning your sleep, your eating, your recreation, and your work are regulated. And because you're only taking Krishna Prasadam, you're not taking sin, and because you are doing everything for Krishna, there's no scope for sense gratification, there's no misery coming from those sources of sinful activities. Meaning you can stop sinful activities, you can like only take prasadam, only do everything for Krishna, having that sort of mentality. But even with that, regulation, planning, some things are kept to minimum, some things are not over extravagant. This, if we don't do this, we still block our advancement in Bhakti Yoga. And I will tell you honestly, it's the most painful and the most frustrating, you feel most hopeless when you're thinking, wow, I'm doing everything for Krishna, but I'm on the edge, like I'm almost like I'm on the edge of breakdown. Yeah, like what is wrong? Basically this is wrong. It's nice to do everything for Krishna, it's nice to dedicate your entire life for Krishna, you're doing everything proper, but when we don't understand these material intricacies, how material regulations also affect our Krishna consciousness. Like yesterday we had this exercise when we were supposed to speak with our partner, and they were supposed to listen to us empathic listening. And I was sharing with this Mataji that basically it is my problem that I take too many services which I like. I honestly like them. I like to do this, I like to do that, I love it. But my body can't handle everything. And Mataji said that, oh, you reminded me of the gopis who were saying that Lord Brahma, he is such a foolish creator that he made our eyes blink so we can't see Krishna. And I'm like, okay, that's a very nice way to put it. But basically, yeah, we have to understand our material limitation, otherwise we're not being intelligent. Yep. So, yes, like here Prabhupada says, Rupa Goswami, he could sleep for 2 hours. He wouldn't even sleep sometimes. But I can tell you from my experience, I had insomnia at one point. and I couldn't sleep at night. But I was not in the ecstasy of Srila Rupa Goswami. I was not in ecstatic chanting of Narottam Das Thakur. I was in misery because I couldn't sleep and I was very tired. So basically it's also about not imitating the level that you're not yet achieved. We're not yet on that level, although we do aspire for that. We aspire for that very badly, to have that level. That, I forget my eating, sleeping, I'm in ecstasy of service to Krishna. But it's not that, we're like sleepless and hungry and and the body is tortured and we're thinking that it must be Krishna consciousness. No. Yeah. So unfortunately, in my personal experience of jumping ahead of myself, I have experienced only the fact that I was very foolish. And so these verses are very, very important. I wish you all the best in following them. And please pray for me that I also realize and practice being a regulated yogi. And in this way, advance in the practice of bhakti yoga steadily and properly. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The book links, previous episodes timeline, and biography of the author can be found on shravanamdiaries.com. The link is in the description, and we shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.